Ladies and gentlemen, 2Guitarz.
2Guitarz.
Coming to you from the
Oasis.
From the Oasis, Temecula, California, center of the universe. Big day today. Podcast number 2 coming out. How about that? With fantastic guest by the name of Dr. Duncan McBride, Chief Neurosurgeon at UCLA.
Oh, yeah.
Serious credentials here. We are talking about how music affects the brain with Dr. McBride. I think you'll really enjoy the interview and the podcast guest for today. Other than that, we have 2 songs of the day, and we are going with the band
Sugar Ray.
Sugar Ray.
It's such a beautiful day. You gotta have some Sugar Ray.
Sugar Ray, Sun Rays, Sugar Ray Day. The 2 songs I think we'll cut today are Someday and
Every morning.
Every morning. We'll do Someday and Every Morning songs of the day instead of just song of the day, so you get double bonus with that. And there will be from the company Loop Drops, a loop of the day, a rhythm loop of the day. Other than that, exciting show. Great to play with you today, Josh.
Likewise.
2Guitarz. It's 2Guitarz with Josh Jaworski and the renowned neurosurgeon Dr. Duncan McBride. Welcome, Duncan, to the 2Guitarz podcast.
Thank you, Jim and Josh. Thanks for having me.
Right on. Say, before we get started, we're super excited to have you on for one thing, and we should have some interesting cognitive aspects that you can add to the show, how the music and the brain may be connected, and who better to bring some awareness to this subject than you. But before we begin, we'd like to briefly run down some of your credentials and for our viewers to understand, your background is probably one of the most recognized and respected neurosurgeons in the entire country, in the entire United States. So we want to know who we're talking to. Duncan McBride, you completed your BA at Yale University, graduated from Northwestern University Feinberg School of Medicine, and completed your surgery internship at Harvard School of Medicine, and then your neurosurgery residency at NYU Medical Center. You spent a majority of your career as chief of neurosurgery at Harbor UCLA for 26 plus years.
34.
34. I was good with the plus years. And as a neurosurgeon, you specialized in, amongst other things, spinal fusion, spinal nerve disorders, neck pain, and brain surgery pertaining to brain bleeds, head trauma, and head tumors. Most of that is accurate?
It sort of understates it, I guess, but the education part's accurate, Jim.
Okay. But
we won't talk about my career. That's not what we're here for.
Well, we're good knowing that you're the real article, so to speak. In addition to all your medical career accolades and highlights, you have always had a deep attraction to music. In fact, you and I became friends and acquainted first as neighbors, but then quickly recognized a mutual appreciation for music and started playing music together. In fact, and in turn, that led to me teaching you how to play the bass. Something like that.
True.
Do you remember?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
As well, your love for music has also found you in the role of a lead singer and frontman in local LA rock bands, performing mostly at private locations, but nevertheless enjoying the stage, the camaraderie of musicians, and experiencing the adrenaline of music, especially live music. So impressive to say the least. It's cool to have you on the show and for you to join us. Thank you, brother. Dr. Duncan McBride. Okay, our first question for you, Dr. McBride, is this. During operations, do you play music, and is it all types of music? And maybe tell us why you would even have music during surgeries.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a great music lover. And, in the operating rooms, the nurses have a card on each surgeon, and it says, okay, he wears this size gloves. He wants to stand on this side of the table. These are the instruments he's going to ask for. Well, on the top of my card in big letters said loves music. So they always play music when I'm there. most of the patients appreciate the music, and in particular, if a person's under sedation and not completely unconscious, playing music is very beneficial for the staff, for the patient, and for the surgeon to relax, to have something going on in the background that is, reducing the stress, let's just say. It's kind of like, I think that exercising to music is an example of what it's similar to. Because when people exercise to music, including myself, you get in that beat, and it just really enhances your experience exercising.
Sure.
And it's the same thing when operating, because operating can be tedious and take a long time. So having the tunes running in the background is very important for me and many others. I would say that is the second part of your question is, the surgeon has the helm when it comes to what music is played in the operating room.
Interesting.
But because I'm interested in learning about music and hearing new music all the time, I let other people run the music a lot of the time. And in that way, I was introduced to lots of new music I wouldn't have heard otherwise.
Sure.
Because, the experience of hearing new music, I think you'll agree, is very different than hearing the songs you've heard 100 times.
Sure.
So it was very enhancing in that way as well.
Sure. So with music having so many different genres and styles and variety, would there be a certain type of music that might be a little bit too intense even, or could it go that way?
Look, part of the theme of this talk is going to be that music is positive energy. Bob Marley said, one good thing about music, when it hits, you feel okay.
Sure.
And so I would say there is certain music that could be offensive to people, and I think you know what I mean. Certain early rap music might have been too much for some people, just because the lyrics are violent and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up in an era where music was revolutionary, and a lot of the music I listened to was sort of anti-establishment, anti-parent, whatever you want to call it. And when we look back on that now, it seems a little bit blasé or cliche or something, but honestly, I would say no. The answer is no. As long as people are not offended by the music, anything goes. And so we would go from NWE and Eazy-E up to Beethoven, Bach, and Brahms.
Yeah. So not to say anything would be maybe too distracting even. It would be all types of music. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Second question, Josh, do you want to take the next one?
Duncan, we read and we hear music having a positive effect with a variety of therapies like exercise and physical therapy, as you had mentioned, an aid for depression, helping to slow or prevent dementia, and coping with disease in general. From a neurological position, can you share with us the therapeutic role that has developed and continues to develop with music?
Sure. There is a subsection of healthcare called music therapy. And there are specialists in this area who will treat people who have depression or anxiety or other issues, and elderly patients in nursing homes, whatever. And it absolutely has a positive effect on their psyche. And I would think that a lot of this would be, well, I'll give you an example. My wife is a musician, and she is a guitar player.
Emergency.
Public safety.
You're getting called into the emergency room.
Time to go.
She works in hospice. She takes her guitar to hospice, and she plays classic songs that these elderly people know, and they love it. It just brings such a ray of light to their life, that that's an example of someone, just doing off the cuff music therapy. But there are actually professionals who do that, and no doubt it's beneficial. I have a friend, she's a cancer survivor. She had to go through chemotherapy and radiation therapy, and she says that the band she loves the most saved her life by listening to that music. So, and you know, I'm sure that when she was, you know, in trouble or feeling down, she would play the music she loves and she would start to feel better. So it definitely has a positive effect. And, you know, I always feel bad for people who don't have music in their life. You know, I think it's such a bonus to love music and play music I play music all the time in my car, in my house, and, you know, when I'm working, all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that is really a big plus in life.
Yeah. And you know, not to you know, dig in too deep, but has there been studies to actually prove music therapy, so to speak, makes you know, a statistical difference or something,
Yes.
a measured difference?
Yes, absolutely there are.
Okay. All right.
So yes, it's scientifically proven that music brings positive feelings to people who might be feeling negative otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And that digs into the whole validity of even having, you know, music in our schools and supporting music education for youth and youth development,
Sure.
you know, cognitive development.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Next, is there validity in the concept of music being a positive energy force, more specifically, from an audio physics perspective, where the frequencies of music are heard or felt and make the brain react in a cognitive manner?
Okay, you know, this is a definite yes for that. I think that everyone who has enjoyed music, particularly live music, when you feel that bass or the bass drum just vibrate through your body, it gives you endorphins. It's all about endorphins. So endorphins are the chemicals in your brain that denote pleasure. Okay. And I think familiar music does that in a big way. That, you know, you hear that riff that you like, or that passage in Beethoven that you like, or that you've heard a million times, and it definitely does something for you. I'm going to give you another anecdote. Being a music-oriented family, my wife and I noted somewhere along the way when she was pregnant that people were playing music to their unborn children through the belly of the mother.
Yeah.
And so we picked a song for each of our 3 children, and we played that song to them over and over and over and over and over and over for months while they were in the womb, but with the speaker right up against her abdomen. Mm-hmm. And the point was that this had 2 positive effects. One was that when these babies were anxious and troubled and in pain, or, you know, colic or whatever, and we put that song on, bang, they would just wake right up, become alert, get calm. It was amazing. It was amazing, really. And we did it. It worked so well with our first child. We did it with all 3. So each of them has a signature song that we played for them. And the second thing it did was, I believe, maybe just growing up in this home, but all of my children have a big appreciation for music. They all play music in one way or another.
So that signature song that you're talking about that each of your children have had, it's truly a signature song. It's something that they really do resonate with, that a particular song.
Well, I don't know about now, it's 30 years ago, but
sure.
But yeah, when at the time, it definitely had a positive effect.
That's definitely. So cool. So cool. Another thing, you see babies reacting to music just in a natural way. Toddlers dancing when they hear a beat. Children developing a smile when they hear something they like. What is that? What is that all about cognitively?
Well,
I mean, because we're talking about infants sometimes that are
music. music is an art form. So you have certain body, your body has X number of sensory organs. So your ears are connected directly to your brain, and music is an art form that stimulates the auditory sensory system, right? So I think that that's an innate, inborn thing. I think human beings have enjoyed and made music from the beginning, from time immemorial. And I think about a year ago, I sent you a video of a little kid. Remember that dancing like wildly? It's just so cool.
Yeah.
I
mean, okay, how is that working with the brain? How's that even possible? These are.
Well, I think it's instinct. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think it's instinct.
And it's
the drum beat from ancient man.
Yeah. Josh, did you have anything to add to that, or any inquiry?
I have a personal question, actually, Duncan.
Sure.
Yeah. So I am a migraine sufferer, and I've
Okay.
had a few friends that actually have certain frequencies they play when they get migraines. Have you
All
heard
right.
of people doing that?
No, but I'm sure that that's something that will work for people. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely sure.
I think it's mostly been bass frequencies because of the kind of soothing vibration.
All right.
But yeah.
Well, the good news is that you should be getting over those migraines within some years, because it's a young person disease.
Okay.
So think positive.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks.
Nice.
So
go ahead, Duncan. Sure.
Well, I one thing I really wanted to touch on is the effect of learning music, playing music for brain preservation, let's call it. I mean, a lot of people think that doing a crossword puzzle every day is going to keep their brain from getting dementia, or slow it down at least, and many other things like that. But I have found personally that there's nothing more challenging than picking up an instrument, or my instrument, and learning something and trying to get it right, and making all the mistakes you have to make to get it right, and finally accomplishing that goal and feeling good about it. And I really think that challenge to the brain is a lot more than a crossword puzzle, because it's hand to eye, and it it takes a lot of concentration to stay with it, to play your tunes,
Sure.
And not only just learning new ones, but just the whole effect of just playing just playing. It really is an excellent exercise for your brain.
On a remedial level, where is this occurring? Learning music, is it the left side of the brain and the right side? And just for us amateurs here.
Well,
when you talk about the left and the right side of the brain, maybe you could school us a little on that.
The left side is where your speech is located. Okay, so understanding and speaking is pretty well centered on the left side. Now, you could take the left side of someone's brain out when they're a baby and they would speak, because the right side would pick it up. But for everybody else, like let's say everyone who's right-handed, and 90% of people who are left-handed, the speech centers are on the left hemisphere. And so I think it's kind of, I'm not sure that it's been proven, but they say that the right side is where your artistic, creative parts are. So this is functional, this is creative. I think it's overgeneralizing, as I just alluded to. I don't think that it's specific for that, because if you're learning a song, you have to learn the words. Is that left or right? So I don't know the answer to that. I think it's everywhere.
And as far as like the actual making your brain work, and they talk about we use 10% or less of our brain, that kind of thing.
You're going to be using more of it when you're learning and playing music, if you were a musician. Now, most people are not musicians but they're enjoying music. I think everyone who's listening to your podcast clearly is a music fan of some kind.
Sure. Yeah.
So you don't actually have to play music to get these benefits. I just wanted to touch on that because I think it really does add to something in terms of maybe brain preservation. Or I'm trying not to get dementia, you know.
Right.
All
I mean,
of
I'm
us.
demented. I'm demented, but it's a whole different
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Last question, maybe, and we'd love to have you back. And there's a ton of questions we could get into and inquiries. When it comes to film music and thinking about watching a film with no music and then adding the music to the film and the element that the music brings to the film, I mean, are you pretty much like in agreement that it's unequivocally not the same thing without
Well,
music?
I've often thought about
The importance. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I have often thought about when I'm watching a movie that there's nothing really happening in this scene except the music.
Yeah.
Right. The person's walking down the hall or whatever, and the music creates the atmosphere. You know, is it scary? Is it funny? Is it, is it stupid? You know, so by adding the music, it definitely creates the art of the movie.
Well, including evoking emotions, even like fear or joy or sadness. And it's interesting. You once said to me, well, I'll close with this before we summarize. You once said to me, Jimmy, I think the best songs might be the saddest songs. And, people often, want to avoid sadness, but there can be joy in the sadness of music.
I like sad music. I don't know, that might be weird.
Yeah.
But maybe I like the fact that it evokes emotion, that I don't normally have a lot of. I'm not a real sad guy, so
somewhere that's getting translated in the process of cognitive thinking or interpretation.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, finally, in your life, Dr. McBride, I know you love music, you appreciate it, and even create music as a musician, performer. Can you tell us what is your driving reason for this? Is it just a great adrenaline rush? You get plenty of adrenaline rush opening up people's brains, or is it something more? Maybe something even you cannot explain.
Being on stage is an adrenaline rush. No other real part of music to me is adrenaline, and I'll just say that, I was a singer in the boys' choir in elementary school, in the church choir before I, decided that wasn't for me. And I have always liked to be the singer.
Yes.
So I might not even be that good of a singer, but I think I am. And we enjoy you in that role, and it looks like you're enjoying yourself. But I mean, is it the adrenaline rush of it all? Is it? I don't know. I like to hear myself.
Sure.
There is an adrenaline rush. There's an ego boost.
Sure.
Not that I need that either, but it's.
By the way, in the whole adrenaline rush thing, what is happening with adrenaline hitting your brain and making that some kind of cognitive experience? Can you dumb it down?
Well, I think most people understand that adrenaline is flight, fright, and fight, right? But it also is stage fright. That's adrenaline, okay? And, and just when you're on stage or performing for people, that feeling of, I don't know, that feeling of being the center of attention, I think, yes, your brain is flooded with adrenaline, which comes from your adrenal glands, by the way, gets into your bloodstream. Good sexual activity is associated with adrenaline. A lot of great things. Some people, such as me, are adrenaline junkies. I like big wave surfing. I like sports that that are a rush. So,
including opening people's skulls.
Well, there's not much of that. Honestly, that
That takes some.
When it's your job, it isn't like that. It isn't, you know, rarely. So we're occasionally when it's like get in there and you got to, sometimes you have to get in somebody's head really, really fast. So you try to save their life because there's blood accumulating and you got to stop it. But most of the time you don't want adrenaline. You want to be calm. You want to know what you're doing.
Okay.
You follow the plan, you foresee it all in your head before it happens. So there's not a lot of adrenaline associated with operating unless it's hyper emergency.
Yeah. Fascinating, brother. Hey, we're not going to keep you much longer. We want to say once again, in conclusion, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor,
for spending some time with us here on our 2Guitarz podcast.
Well, I hope it was interesting to your followers.
No, we have several followers that have been anticipating the show and they're waiting for it to be published, which will be next week, probably something to that effect. And we're sure that your insights and your expertise to the questions we were able to ask will be more helpful and informative to many people than you might even thought yourself. So as a guest for the show, we'd like to give you a 2Guitarz t-shirt, if that's cool.
Ooh,
okay.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's what I need.
Great. So we'll get that out to you. Thank you again from the center of the universe, Temecula, California, and our studio we call the Oasis. It's been our pleasure to have you with us. 2Guitarz and the renowned neurosurgeon, lead singer, frontman, Dr. Duncan McBride. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, 2Guitarz saying peace and out. Thank you, Duncan.
thanks so much.
Bye. Thank you.